If you are looking for a game to play over Halloween, the eShop presents a number of choices. There are a multitude of Resident Evil games, indie hits such as Detention and The Coma, the terrifying Outlast games, the unsettling Layers of Fear. We even have the classic Amnesia collection now too. However, there is one game on the Switch that may pique your interest, a game called Night Trap. Seeing Night Trap on the Switch may evoke a couple of responses from people. You will either be intrigued as it's a game you've never heard of, or it will give you a wry smile as you remember Night Trap. Even people that haven't played it might remember Night Trap, and that's because the game has a history. In fact, it's a history that is linked quite heavily with Nintendo, despite it never being on a Nintendo console before its release on the Switch in 2018. So what's the story? Well, I'm Glenn for SwitchUp, and today we are looking at Night Trap, the Switch game that would never be on a Nintendo console. First, we must go right back to 1986. The game was developed as a demo for a prototype system made by Axlon called the Nemo, N-E-M-O, later to be renamed the ControlVision, as they demonstrated it to Hasbro Toys in the hopes of forging a partnership. The Nemo, or ControlVision, would use VHS tapes to present gamers with a movie-like experience. Hasbro agreed to the deal and production began on Night Trap. The idea behind Night Trap was that it would use full motion video, or FMV, to tell a story of a group of girls staying at a house. You play the role of a member of the Sega, we'll get to that, Control Attack Team, or SCAT. Charming. You must keep watch of the group of 5 teenage girls who are staying in the house using the various camera feeds to keep the girls safe from a group of vampiric beings known as augurs by controlling a number of different traps. The original demo that was presented to Hasbro was for a game called Scene of the Crime, with the premise being that one of a group of shady characters in a mansion had stolen some money and players must follow surveillance footage in order to work out who the culprit was. As the demo evolved into a full game, so did the game's premise, with it first being an expansion of this original idea, albeit now with the billionaire mansion owner's daughter being home with a group of friends, as ninja burglars tried to steal the money. Eventually though, the stolen money idea was scrapped and the burglars became vampires. Now Hasbro were not keen on the idea of vampires, or at least anything shown in the game that could be copied by people who played it. Therefore the vampires became known as augurs, as already mentioned, and their method of extracting blood from victims changed to a syringe-like device rather than the more traditional fangs in the neck.
The whole sort of reason for having that thing that goes around the neck of the kids that get nailed was to make it something that was sort of so phantasaical and something so non-replicable that there wouldn't be any chance that anybody could mistake it for reality.
Hasbro also insisted that the augurs did not move too fast or menacingly, hence the reason they have such a peculiar stance in the final game. Filming of the video sequences began in 1987, and the shoot took 16 weeks and a 35mm camera was used. Amongst the cast was actress Dana Plato, most famous for her role as Kimberly in American sitcom Different Strokes, who tragically died in 1999 at the age of 34. Things took an unexpected turn when during the game's production, with it due to release alongside the ControlVision and another FMV game called Sewer Shark in 1989, Hasbro shut the entire project down, citing high production costs as the reason. This prompted the game's executive producer, Tom Zito, to purchase the footage for the games and found his own company, Digital Pictures, in the hopes of completing the games and finding a new home for them. Eventually, Night Trap was picked up by Sega for release on their Sega CD system, meaning a conversion was needed from the current VHS format onto CD-ROM, and the game was released to mixed reviews in 1992, 5 years after the footage was originally filmed. So where do Nintendo fit into all of this? Well, they entered the story very soon, as after its release, Night Trap garnered the attention of the US Senate Committee, and a hearing was held on the 9th of December 1993 to discuss violence in video games. The hearing was held by Senators Joseph Lieberman and Herb Kohl, and 2 games were shown to the hearing as examples of games that taught children to enjoy torture rather than enrich their minds. The 2 games in question were Midway's Mortal Kombat and, of course, Night Trap. Lieberman went on to say of Night Trap that it was, and I quote, a graphic depiction of violence against women with strong overtones of sexual violence.
I find this segment deeply offensive and believe that it simply should be taken off the market.
Tom Zito and Sega attempted to argue that there were no explicit scenes of violence or nudity in the game at all, and it was intended to be a parody of vampire movies.
At the end of the hearings, I walked up to Lieberman and I said to him, Senator, have you ever actually played this game? And he said, I don't have to, this is filth.
They also stated that the idea of the game was to protect the women and that it did not endorse violence in any way, shape or form. Sega of America's Bill White argued that of the audience Sega tried to reach with their video games, children were just a small percentage, and that Night Trap was aimed at an adult audience.
If you showed only the violent and gory scenes from out of context consecutively, one after the other, from Roots or Gone with the Wind, you might conclude they're horrible films.
In response to this, Joseph Lieberman asked why a game like this should even be available for adults. As part of the proceedings, Nintendo testified to the committee, and Senior Vice President of Nintendo of America, Howard Lincoln, had this to say of Night Trap.
In the past year, some very violent and offensive games have reached the market. And of course, I'm speaking about Mortal Kombat and Night Trap. And let me say that for the record, I want to state that Night Trap will never appear on a Nintendo system. Obviously, it would not pass our guidelines. This game, which as you've indicated promotes violence against women, simply has no place in our society.
He went on to criticise Bill White's claim that Night Trap was intended for adults only, showing a picture of the cover art and pointing out that there was no age rating included on it at all.
The fact of the matter is, this is a copy of the packaging. There was no rating on this game at all when the game was introduced. Small children bought this at Toys R Us, and he knows that as well as I do.
The publicity afforded to Night Trap during the hearing actually saw it receive a boost in sales the following week, although 2 weeks before Christmas of 1993, America's two biggest toy stores of the time, Toys R Us and KB Toys, took Night Trap off of their shelves.
Want to sell something to 16-year-old boys? Get it banned by Toys R Us. You know, you can't keep enough of a supply at the warehouse.
By January 1994, Sega had withdrawn Night Trap from the market completely. The aftermath of the hearing would ultimately lead to the video game's rating system still used to this day, the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, or ESRB, which was officially launched on the 16th of September 1994, having been announced to Congress in July of that year. It launched with 5 initial ratings, being early childhood, kids to adults, teen, mature and adults only. Once the dust had settled and with a rating system now in place, Night Trap saw later ports to the 3DO, the 32X and MS-DOS. It's debatable whether, had it not been for the controversy, many people would have even remembered Night Trap, but when the 25th anniversary edition that released in 2017 on the PlayStation 4 and Microsoft Windows made its way to the Nintendo Switch in 2018, this strange footnote in the history of modern video games was complete. It even went on, of course, to get its own standard and special edition physical releases from limited run games, complete with covers that mimicked the Sega CD and 32X releases from back in the day. To be fair, the Nintendo of today are much more relaxed about mature content being released on their systems, probably down to the creation of the ESRB in the first place, meaning they felt they no longer needed to censor or deny such games onto their system as the necessary regulations were now in place. And thus we conclude the story of Night Trap, the Switch game that would never be on a Nintendo console. Thank you everybody for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. This is the first time that we've attempted anything like this on the channel, although retrospectives or histories of certain games or characters is definitely something I'd like to do on the channel moving forward as a series, so please do leave a comment below to let me know if that's something you would enjoy. Of course, the first try of anything new can always be improved on, so I'm sure there are ways we can make this even better, but I hope you enjoyed it in its current form at least for now. Just a quick thank you to our Patreons for your continued support. If you would like to join them, the links are down below, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and as always, happy gaming.